I'm not talking about money for Greenland yet. I might talk about that. But right now, we are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not.
Why does Donald Trump keep saying that he wants to buy Greenland? You've seen the headlines, and it sounds like a bizarre, almost laughable idea. But what if this isn't a joke at all? What if there's a dead serious strategy behind it? And what if I told you this is actually the third time the US has actually tried to do it? That infamous 2019 offer was just a prelude. Since late 2024, the talk has become a full-blown geopolitical drama, with threats of tariffs and repeated assertions that the US has to have Greenland for national protection. This is a high-stakes chess match that has been playing out in the shadows for decades, with three grandmasters: the United States, Russia, and China. And the board is the vast, frozen expanse of the Arctic. Now, that game is speeding up at an alarming rate. So, what is it that makes this massive, icy island suddenly one of the most strategic places on the entire planet? How is this quiet, remote territory at the center of a struggle that will define our future? To understand, you have to look past the ice and see the forces of climate change, resource competition, and military power that are converging at the top of the world. Now let's break it down. When you picture Greenland, what comes to mind? For most, it's a vast, silent, and almost entirely empty expanse of ice. And you wouldn't be wrong. It's a place of truly epic scale. At over 836,000 square miles, it's the world's largest island, a landmass so huge it's hard to comprehend. Yet, an outstanding 80% of it lies buried beneath a colossal, ancient ice sheet that in some places is miles thick. Its population is just around 56 to 57,000 people, most of whom are of Inuit heritage. They live in small, hardy settlements scattered along the ice-free coasts. Their lives dictated by the rhythm of the seasons and the sea. For centuries, this island has existed on the quiet periphery of world affairs. After early settlements by Norse explorers, it eventually came under the control of Denmark. Today, it's an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. It runs most of its own domestic affairs, but it still relies on the government in Copenhagen for crucial matters like defense and foreign policy. For decades, its local economy has been propped up by two main pillars: fishing and subsidies from Denmark. So why the sudden, intense global obsession?
We need Greenland for national security. One way or the other, we're gonna get it.
Why would a modern superpower want to buy what, on the surface, looks like a giant, frozen, and nearly empty island? The answer is as simple as it is dramatic. The world has changed, and the Arctic is changing faster than anywhere else, because of what's buried under the ice, and because the ice itself is now melting at an unprecedented rate. This once quiet island is no longer on the periphery. It is now at the dead center of a new great power rivalry. First off, we have to understand that America's obsession with Greenland.
I think anger is the predominant feeling. We do not take kindly to threats, and we don't like people who lie. And we think that Trump should come out openly and say that he wants the minerals, he wants the oil, he wants the rare earth minerals, he wants control of the Northeast Passage.
Is absolutely nothing new. The recent headlines are just the latest and loudest, a chapter in a long history. The US first tried to buy the island way back in 1867, the same year it purchased Alaska from Russia. Then, it tried again in 1946. At the dawn of the Cold War, President Truman, fearing the rise of the Soviet Union, secretly offered Denmark $100 million in gold for the territory. He saw it as a vital, non-negotiable outpost against Soviet aggression over the North Pole. Each time, Denmark refused. But the underlying American logic never changed: location and resources.
The US would simply have to go to the government in Greenland, the government of Denmark, and say, we want to increase our footprint, we want access to the following ports, bases. There would be almost inconceivable for the government of Denmark and Greenland to say no if the request is something which is reasonable.
Today, however, the stakes of that logic are exponentially higher. Let's start by following the money. As the planet continues to warm, Greenland's immense ice sheet is melting. This melting is uncovering what geologists believe could be trillions of dollars in untapped natural resources. We're talking about vast deposits of oil, natural gas, gold, uranium, and zinc. But the real game-changing prize? Rare earth minerals. These are the elements that are the secret ingredients of the modern world, vital for everything from our smartphones and electric vehicle batteries to the most advanced weapon systems, like jet fighters and guided missiles. And as of right now, one country utterly dominates the global supply of these minerals: China. This gives Beijing an immense economic and strategic leverage. They control the spigot. For the United States and its allies, finding alternative sources and breaking the stranglehold isn't about money. It's a fundamental issue of national security, and Greenland is believed to hold some of the world's largest untapped deposits outside of China. Of course, the US isn't the only global power that has been circling. China has spent years presenting itself as a friendly, neutral economic partner to Greenland, offering to fund and build mines, airports, and the other critical infrastructure. It has begun calling itself a near-Arctic state, as it lays the groundwork for a polar Silk Road, a new trade network that it hopes to dominate. Meanwhile, Russia, the great Arctic power, is aggressively militarizing its vast northern coastline, reopening old Soviet-era bases and building new ones, viewing the region as absolutely critical to its economic and military future. This is a new great game, just like the 19th century rivalry over Central Asia. Today's great powers, the US, Russia, and China, are all staring at the same spot on the map. They're all looking at Greenland and seeing the exact same thing, a gateway to the resources and the strategic positioning that will define power in the 21st century. They see a geopolitical chess piece of immense value, and no one can afford to let their rivals be the one to control it. Long before anyone was talking about rare earths, the US understood Greenland's other great value: its location. During the Cold War, the shortest path for a Soviet missile to reach North America was straight over the North Pole. Greenland sits right in the middle of that path like a giant, unsinkable aircraft carrier. In 1951, the US and Denmark signed an agreement allowing America to build a faux air base, now called Kvanefjeld Space Base. Just 900 miles from the North Pole, it's the US military's northernmost base. Back then, it was a staging point for bombers and a key part of a distant early warning radar system. Today, its mission is just as vital. The massive radar at Kvanefjeld can spot missile launches from thousands of miles away, giving North America precious minutes of warning. It also tracks satellites and acts as a communications hub for the entire polar region, and the base overlooks the GI-UK gap, a strategic channel between Greenland, Iceland, and the UK that Russian submarines have to pass through to reach the Atlantic. As the Arctic ice melts, new shipping lanes and new potential conflict zones are opening up. Controlling Greenland means controlling the skies and the seas of the high north. For the Pentagon, it's an ultimate high ground in a region that's getting more crowded every single year. The third reason Greenland is so important is the one that could literally redraw the map of global trade. For centuries, shipping goods from Europe to Asia meant a long, expensive trip through the Suez Canal. But as the Arctic warms up, new shortcuts are emerging from the ice. The Northwest Passage over Canada, and more importantly, the Northern Sea Route, or NSR, along Russia's coast. The NSR is a total game changer. It cuts the journey from East Asia to Western Europe from 21,000 kilometers down to just 12,800 kilometers. That shaves 10 to 15 days off the trip, saving shipping companies hundreds of thousands of dollars on every single voyage. Greenland is perfectly located to become a hub for this new highway. Its ports could offer refueling, resupply, and research and rescue for the growing number of ships. Cargo traffic on the NSR has already exploded, jumping from around 2 million tons in 2010 to over 36 million tons by 2023, and it's still growing. Some scientists predict the Arctic could have completely ice-free summers as early as 2040, making these routes even more popular. This shift directly threatens the power of traditional choke points like the Suez Canal and elevates the countries that can control the new Arctic lanes. And that brings us to the other players in this game. This chess match at the top of the world is only getting more intense. If you're finding this breakdown as fascinating as I do, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories shaping our world. Your support is what allows us to keep digging into these complex global dramas. The United States isn't the only one that sees what's happening in the Arctic. Russia and China are also making aggressive moves to lock down their own influence. For Russia, the Arctic is part of its national identity and its economic future. Vladimir Putin is pouring money into the region, building a fleet of nuclear-powered icebreakers and marketing the Northern Sea Route as the world's next great shipping lane. Since Russia's economy depends on energy exports, the NSR is the perfect corridor to get its oil and gas to markets in Asia. China, meanwhile, has declared itself a near-Arctic state. Even though it has no Arctic territory, it's pushing a polar Silk Road strategy, using its vast wealth to fund infrastructure and mining projects across the region. In Greenland, Chinese companies have tried to invest in everything from mines to airports, calling them simple business deals, but many see this as a debt-trap diplomacy. a way to gain strategic footholds in a critical region without firing a shot. All of this is creating a tense rivalry. The US sees Russian and Chinese expansion as a direct threat. When Russian and Chinese warships held joint drills in the Bering Sea, it put the Pentagon on high alert, preventing a rival from controlling Greenland's resources or setting up military base there is now a top priority in Washington. So when you look at it this way, with trillions in minerals, military dominance, and global trade on the line, Donald Trump's 2019 offer to buy Greenland doesn't seem so random after all. It looks more like a blunt, direct move in a very serious game. And it wasn't even a new idea. The US has tried to get Greenland before. In 1867, the same year it bought Alaska, the Secretary of State pushed to buy Greenland too, but Congress wasn't interested. The US tried again in 1946, right after World War II proved how vital the island was for defense. Trump's proposal was just a modern follow-up to that long-standing interest. Even though Denmark and Greenland said no, the US hasn't backed down. It's just switched tactics, offering $12.1 million aid package in 2020 to boost development and counter rival investments, and it continues to deepen its defense ties with the island. The story of America's interest in Greenland was never really about the real estate deal. It's about how climate change is completely redrawing the global map of power. An island that was once a frozen afterthought is quickly becoming the strategic center of the world. It has everything: the minerals for the green energy revolution, the military high ground to watch over rivals, and the front row seat to the world's future trade routes. That combination makes it one of the most important geopolitical prizes of this century. The world may have laughed at the idea of buying Greenland, but the strategists in Washington, Moscow, and Beijing weren't laughing. They see the board clearly. The fight for the Arctic is a long game, and the decisions being made today by the 57,000 people of Greenland will shape alliances, economies, and the global balance of power for decades to come. The real reason America tried to buy a country is that it knows the future is frozen at the top of the world, and it's starting to melt.